When I had my first child, I had a child who has a massive range of emotions, and my calm could not meet her range.
Hmm.
So one might think that regulation, a regulated nervous system means calm, but I find that a regulated nervous system means that I have range, I have capacity for meeting someone in their fight.
Welcome, Ingenious baby.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me on this. I experienced your nervous system healing calls, which were so amazing. And I have done a lot of somatic experiencing and nervous system healing myself. I have two children as well. And I think it's so important that I wish I would have known some of these things when I had my children when they were first born. And I just think every parent can benefit from that. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about that.
I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for asking.
I know you're working a lot with moms right now in particular, and can you talk from your perspective how the nervous system of the parent impacts the
Mm,
children and their development?
yeah, I would love to. So I have generally, since I was little, come across as a pretty calm person. So when chaos ensues, I tend to keep my calm. When I had my first child, I had a child who has a massive range of emotions, and my calm could not meet her range. So
Hmm.
one might think that regulation, a regulated nervous system means calm, but I find that a regulated nervous system means that I have range, I have capacity for meeting someone in their fight, not saying fighting back, but like being there with the energy, for being there in the sadness, and for really being able to be there with my heart without merging too much, if that makes sense. And something that happened in my family was we were working with a nervous system developmentalist so that we could better support our daughter. And he was saying how important it was to be calm. And I was like, I am the calmest person you will ever
Right.
meet. He said, but you try too hard. And at this point, I was up 4 to 8 times for almost 8 years. My kids did not sleep a lot at night. And so I want to just honor any parent out there who is trying really hard. What our children's bodies are picking up on is whether or not we actually truly feel safe and happy. So, me being a tolerant calm, meaning I am tolerating, I am using my breath to stay calm, is a very different experience for my child than having a parent who is authentic, who is really there with them, who can really meet them where they're at. And so the nervous system work that I've done is actually to increase my ability to be in the range of emotions without losing my capacity to pause, to have choice, and to respond on purpose. And if I could say another thing about that is that our kids, and really all of us, we have mirror neurons. And so we're always regulating with one another. We are often even merging with one another. And almost like a lie detector, our kids are really dependent on, are my parents taking care of themselves? Do my parents feel safe? It's not our words. They're like a lie detector, right? Like you could say something to a lie detector and it will pick up that your heart rate is high. It will pick up that you have muscle tension. And our kids' bodies are picking up on all of those things more than the words you say, more than the parenting techniques that you use. It is your state that is going to change how your kids receive you, how they feel met, if they feel safe to be themselves. And it affects how they learn, how they connect with others. It's massive.
It's
And it shifted the way that my husband and I looked at self care being the basis of familial care.
that is so true. I mean, I can't. I wish I would have known that earlier because it's so profound. having that realization, because like you said, you could do every parenting tip, every technique, but it's really so much deeper than that. Um, can you talk a little bit about what are some of the tools, or what did you learn to do so that you could, I guess, calm your nervous system in that way to meet your children?
Yeah, so it was about meeting myself first. So it's almost like if you think about going to a concert, you don't first perform or interact with the crowd before you practice on your own. And so it has a lot to do. Like one of my mentors said to me once, "So what do you do for a healthy fight outlet?" And I was like, I don't know what you mean. I don't have any urge for fight." And so my calm was actually some level of freeze woven in. So I had
Mm-hmm.
frozen my fight, if that makes sense. So she
Mm-hmm.
had suggested to me, why don't you go out into the woods and find a tree that's already down and a stick that's already dead and just try hitting the stick against the tree. And it reminded me, because I was an athlete, it reminded me like, oh man, every time a baseball player hits the ball with a bat and then there's like the ha, like there's the sound that comes out. Things that athletics give our kids are healthy fight outlets, healthy flight outlets, right? We have all of these outlets when we're younger to express these things. And then as adults, where are they? And when I started looking at like, what is healthy flight might mean that I get away with girlfriends. It might mean that I plan trips for the family. It might mean that I have time alone. And when I start doing those things for myself, then I can identify it in my kids. So I had just done something for myself to work with my anger. And I came home and I was with my kids and I saw my older one really arguing with my younger one. And it wasn't over an emotional thing that they needed this like social skills to work out. It was just like, it was a fight for fight's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And the part of me that really wants peace, really wants them to get, and like just wants to get in there and fix it,
Mm-hmm.
felt the tension. So that's this, as soon as you feel a tension, you know that you're trying to fix it instead of connect with a moment, connect with the energy, get creative, be playful. And I just found myself like dropping down onto my hands and knees and looking her in the eyes and in a playful way, being like, you want to fight? Because what I saw, what I recognized was, oh, my daughter needs a fight outlet. And so she's using my younger daughter because that's a safe for her, right? And my younger daughter's like, I don't know what to do. I'm telling her I love her. I'm like, why is she still going on? Right. So I get on the ground and immediately my older one kind of like rolls over and like starts laughing. And then another time a scenario like that happened, I was like, do you want to do a pillow fight? And what it does is like she got those sounds like, and then she's laughing, but she's really getting the energy out to notice that sometimes our physiology just needs an outlet. And so as I got outlets for myself, I could notice it in my kids. And instead of always trying to fix them or calm them down, we became more creative with what are ways that you get to express this energy that's in you that wants to come out in a way that's not harmful, but in a way that's generative and connective. Because now she and I are having a moment, and now our oxytocin is going up, and now her sister's laughing in the background. And it turned into this really beautiful moment. And I mean, I could go on. I can.
Yeah, that's it's so beautiful. Especially, as moms, we do repress a lot of things, and we can appear calm on the outside, but you're right. I mean, it's the energy. People, our kids are picking that up. I think my daughter is similar. Like she's very emotional as well. And are there specific tips or anything like something they could do weekly or daily at home to help themselves connect with that part of themselves if they're not used to doing that?
Yeah. So there are 101 nervous system tools that people can use. But the thing I would recommend, the number one thing, is to pause. And then, if possible, to feel. So for some of us, feeling is not available, but it might even be like, I feel my feet on the ground. It might be that you feel an emotion and then you choose.
Mm-hmm.
I can go over more nervous system tips or tools, but I would love to say that trauma physiology is when we feel like we don't have choice. It's when we feel hopeless. It's
Mm-hmm.
when we feel stuck. And it often happens in the presence of another. So we feel unseen. And so when we're going through something that could be chaotic in the morning, it could be in the middle of the day, it could be nighttime. When we pause, that's generally followed by a breath, right? It's just naturally followed. Like you take it, you pause, and naturally there's an inhale and an exhale. And now the kids may not stop fighting and everything may not suddenly go as planned, but we can have a choice point. Sometimes that choice point for me is just the recognition, orientation, and recognition are resources for nervous system. So I might have the recognition that this moment is not going to last forever. And that is wildly helpful for me. It's not quite escapism, right? It's like if my daughter, my younger one, she's overtired. And one night I was saying, I love you. And I put my hands on her head and like my finger touched her eye. She has the longest eyelashes. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, ah. Now I know for 45 minutes there is going to be screaming. There's because she's overtired, right? That's not her normal
Uh-huh.
state.
Right.
So I just like, oh, this actually can't go on forever. And so I pause. I have the recognition that it's not going to go on forever. And then that night in particular, I actually, because her screaming was so loud, I needed to tend to my nervous system so that I wasn't tolerating to create calmness. So
Mm-hmm.
I did a really low hum, like below what she could hear. And it
Hmm.
was amazing. It was so helpful for me to
Can you
just like,
demonstrate that? Like what that looks
yeah.
like or what that sounds like?
So if she is just, and I just want to say I have a cold right now, so I will try my best.
Yeah.
Um, so if my child were upset, I wouldn't just start going like, right? Like she was really going for it. And so this was for my nervous system. And it was just like a, and so our vagus nerve, which helps
Mm-hmm.
to stimulate and kind of turn on our parasympathetic response, goes through our vocal cords. And so when we hum, it tends to tone our vagus nerve, which helps to stimulate that feeling of I'm safe. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I was not safe, if I was under attack, I would not be sitting there humming. And so the humming was not actually to soothe her. It was beneath what she could hear. And I was just amazed at like, oh, I could stay here forever, and it's not going to last forever. And eventually she worked through it. I was able to stay by her side because I was taking care of myself. And then she said to me, Mama, I'm so angry at you, but I do want a hug. And she were like, I'm ready for the
Oh.
hug now. And I was like, oh, that I get that. Like when the same person that you're angry at, you also want love from. I said, you can be angry at me as long as you want. I'd love to give you a hug. And then eventually, we went to bed in a nice place. But part of that was again taking care of myself
Mm-hmm.
and then take care of ourselves. Then our kids don't have to grow up thinking they have to take care of us to be safe. Did I
That's
answer your
beautiful.
question?
Yeah, no, I think that's really beautiful. I love the ideas of different scenarios of where parents can get very frustrated. And sometimes people don't have those tools. They can intuitively know that they need to pause, but I don't think sometimes people are able to do that in the moment. So how would you recommend someone can become better at pausing and noticing how they're feeling other?
Yeah, so I would say like doing it when you're not stimulated first, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in small scenarios, it might even be like you're at the stoplight and you're noticing that you're a little late and you notice that your nervous system's getting all jacked up. And so you might pause, take a breath. Is there anything I can do about this? No, I'm going to take another breath and I'm going to feel my seat on my seat. I'm going to feel my feet on the ground. You might do it just like building it into your morning routine. So in the resource program I have, I'll have them wearing 3 rings or strings around so that 3 times a day they can practice the tool so that
Mm.
they're reminders. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, nervous system work is cumulative. So when we do the things when we're not stressed, it makes it easier and more natural to do it when we are stressed. One more tool I'd love to offer parents. I have been incorporating whispering into my
Mm.
parenting lately. And again, something that I keep trying to highlight here is doing things that are good for your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
That then in turn is great for their nervous systems. And when their nervous systems feel great, they make more heart-centered decisions. We make more heart-centered decisions. They learn better. They're more creative. They feel safer to take risks. So when we are saying things on repeat to our kids and they're not listening, it is supernatural for our body's security system to say, I'm not safe. My needs are not being met. No one is hearing me. I'm going to have to do it louder. And we know the vagus nerve is connected to our vocal cords. And as we get
Right.
louder, even if it's just somebody who doesn't hear you on the phone, they're like, what? I don't have good reception. I find myself getting frustrated, even though it's literally they just don't have good reception. It's a
Right.
physiological thing that happens when we're not being heard and raising our voice. And for the kids, uh, when they're stressed or overloaded, they actually can't hear us. That is also physiological. It's a freeze response. So when we whisper and we lean in, it changes my tone, it changes my nervous system. But as I lean in too, it gives my kids this feeling of like, gives us both really a feeling of like, oh, we're in this together. Oh, we're on the same team. And so when I want my kids to go up, turn off the TV, it's time to go upstairs for bed. If I just said, like, I need you to turn it off. I told you were going to have one show. It's time to go upstairs. We need time to wind down. Like, that's like not a great transition. And
Right.
so I might go up and like, as soon as I lean into whisper, I feel like I owe them a game. Like, not a game like I need to play Monopoly with them, but more like I lean in and immediately it triggers something in me that's like, oh, we're doing something playful. So it's like, hey, the
Yeah.
show's over. Do you want to get on my back? And like almost immediately they're bought in, they're giggling, and it doesn't feel manipulative because like I have enough like an authentic, playful part of me comes out when I start to whisper. And when we
Yeah.
lean into each other, it's signaling safety. You don't whisper to your enemy. You don't whisper when you're in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
You don't whisper when you're fleeing. Generally, you whisper someone to someone you love, someone that's, you're in on something together. And so that has also been really transformative because, again, it's not just about manipulating their behavior. It's actually just about getting good in my own body. And that invites them in, which is no
Yeah.
longer manipulation to get them to do what I want. It's more like, oh, we're in this together. Like, how are we going to get there? And some sort of like creativity comes about when it's not 100% my plan. They might be like, no, I don't want to do it like that, but let's do it like this. Okay, let's go.
That's so wonderful. That's a good one. I haven't used that one yet. I think that's a really good idea. The tip that there was one thing that you want to make sure that parents know about the importance of regulating their own nervous system, what would it be?
I would say that they are the barometer, that self-care matters and that they matter. So as I create this program for mothers, I'm so happy that the byproduct is a family system that feels better, that feels safer, that feels more enjoyable. But the first thing that touches my heart the most is for parents to know. And possibly because of my role being a mother, I just feel like, oh, I want moms to know that they matter.
Yeah.
And the pause, feel, choose is like, I exist. So what's woven into that is I exist.
Mhm.
My needs matter. My desires matter. I'm a part of this too, right? Like my well-being matters.
Right.
And I think we've had it backwards for a long time where we treat parenting like I have to figure out how to manipulate my kid even when it's like, I'm going to let them feel all their feelings because that's what we're supposed to do now. But how do I actually still get them? What if it starts with, you matter? And that is like the biggest lesson that your kids can take away, because if our kids are using mirror neurons, then when they're adults, I know I want my daughters to act in a way that their bodies matter, their needs matter, their desires matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays into a family system. And if it's not clear what the nervous system is, I would say the nervous system, we can think of it as an on-off switch, but I really think it's more dynamic than that. I would almost talk about it more in the way of our body intelligence. And it's there to protect us. It's there to remember things that didn't work out well and to keep us from doing it again.
You want to share about your program that you have for mothers?
They don't have
Yeah.
to be mothers, but I do know that in motherhood, we often disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the revolution is for mothers to be present and to matter. And so this program is built to start with recognition, to start with resourcing. The reason why it's called resource is because Jerry Molitor had the definition of stress. That is, stress is when we have more demands than resources. And that can feel really, really true for most mothers most of the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this program is, how do we resource ourselves in ways that maybe don't cost more money, right? Because
Yeah.
like a babysitter would be a really great resource, and
Going
a
to a
chef would be a really
spa.
great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what are other ways that we can resource ourselves throughout the day, or how we interact? And that helps our nervous system. And that program will go on to be like, okay, now that we're understanding resourcing, what makes me feel alive? And by the end of the program, we really also get into the co-regulation aspect, boundary repair,
Mm-hmm.
listening, and how do we listen with what, like, do we listen with our heart? Do we listen with our ears? Do we listen with our body? How do we feel heard? And part of boundary repair too is also noticing like, if I need more space, do I have the capacity to ask for it? And do I have the capacity to be with a person who takes that personal, right? Like there's like building capacity,
Mm-hmm.
being able to claim the thing that you now notice in yourself.
I love that. Sounds like an amazing program and so needed and so appreciated by, I think, moms in particular. So thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and your presence, and you're just calming just talking to you. If you know someone who'd be a great fit for the show, come on over to ingeniousbaby.com and share your tips and story ideas. You are your baby's first and best teacher.